Marco,
Sean, tell me
I,
where you went.
I missed you in Anaheim, California, my friend. You didn't get to enjoy probably my favorite. I'll say it, my favorite conference of the year. My
Really?
first time there, and it struck me.
I
It got
thought
me.
I thought it was cybersecurity, your favorite thing. Now
I
I
do.
figure out his music.
It is music. Yeah,
There you go.
it's been certainly music's been part of my life way longer than cybersecurity has, which we've talked about a few times on my show. But no, I was fortunate enough to attend NAM the NAM show 2025 and got to see presentations and be part of conversations, a few performances. Got to see John talk about all the cool stuff that the event brings together, and his team was very supportive. And I said, John, I'd love to have you on the show. Kind of give us an update of what happened, maybe some of the highlights from 2025, maybe what we can expect from next year as well. So I'm thrilled to have John Mlynczak on. John, how are you?
I'm good. It's great to be here. For those that attended NAM and those that skipped NAM, lovely to
We'll
be here with all of you.
Let's not
I was
rub
talking
it
to your
in.
audience. I wasn't talking to you two. I was just greeting the audience. To
There
we
we
love
go.
everyone, whether you attend or not.
Of course,
Yeah,
of course,
well, I
of
like to
course.
point fingers at Marco anyway, so
It's fun.
and
I
make
do
him feel
that.
a little
I
bad
do that
too.
on the mirror myself sometimes.
Yeah, so we'll get into the show in a moment, but John, if you could maybe a few moments, a little bit about your background and your role with NAM as you entered that role.
Yeah, happy to. I am coming up on 23 months of being in this role, of being at NAM. It's very exciting. I think after 2 years, you get to like start calling your age in years, but up to the first 2 years, it's like toddler. You measured in months. Is that? So I'm almost close to be able to speak in years and not months. But before that, yeah, I've been to the NAM show many years before in previous companies, and it's always been my favorite week of the year, and always a time for the industry to gather and have amazing experiences. So I going way back, I started as a that music kid, like literally that music kid. Like I was breaking my mom's Tupperware trying to be a drummer in elementary school. I was couldn't wait to join school band, and wanted to do guitar lessons and piano lessons and everything I can get my hands on. So I was just always a music kid. And then school music, and then got a degree as a music educator and taught music and played music, gigged a lot. And I, got into the industry later just by being really actually invested in technology. I love music technology. Marco, you mentioned technology uh, CS and all that. I was very fascinated with like every gizmo and gadget that like could help record music. Like even when I grew up at a certain time, where like remember mini disc recorders, like that was like,
Hmm.
and you had that $100 mic that like a double A battery lasted about 27 minutes in it, and you'd have to replace it. But like, and you'd have this like mini disc, you had to write them out. But like then you had then digital recorders, and then like 8-in interfaces. Remember Firewire? That was a thing for like a minute. Like we all thought it was 400. Wait, I need a 400 to 800 adapter. I need a 400 to 800 to Thunderbolt adapter. Wait, we're not using any of that anymore. Why did I buy all this stuff? My dongles had dongles for a while, and it was like that world of like, I loved that. And that was like part of me as playing a musician and recording people. And then that just turned into like something I started teaching students, which I've always kind of had this like, what's next? Like, what else could we be doing that we're not doing type mentality? And then from there, my first job in the industry was PreSonus Audio, where I was in Baton Rouge. I was playing and gigging in New Orleans and Louisiana, and living in Baton Rouge. And PreSonus is based there, and we just got to know each other. And then it turned out that it was the right time for PreSonus to want to expand into the education market. And we both were trying to figure out what that meant. But I was teaching music technology and knew how to use all their products, and had degrees in educational leadership and curriculum experience and all this other stuff that happened. So it just worked out. And I went to my first NAM show, and was life was changed. And I got really involved with NAM as an organization and the foundation side. I was involved on NAM's advocacy efforts throughout my 10 years. So I've always been really close to NAM, and NAM has been, a very important part of my career journey, because obviously every everything I've learned and the connections and the relationships and everything have been part of just attending NAMM shows. And I got my dream job 23 months ago, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, I can relate. My parents said everything was a drum for me. If I could tap it or hit it, it was getting tapped and hit. So definitely deeply ingrained for me too. And yeah, I love you had so many experiences, and including the education. I wish there was more of that, and perhaps we can touch on that a little bit as well. So
Mhm.
you're coming up on your 2 years with NAMM itself. Maybe a word about NAMM, not just the event, but because it's a membership group. Um, what does it do? Who's it for? What's NAMM as an organization all about?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because NAMM is the National Association of Music Merchants. NAMM was founded in 1901. We're coming up on a 125-year birthday next year, so we're getting ready to do that party. But so NAMM is founded is an association. We're a 501c6 trade association. We are the largest uh, in the U.S., but the largest global trade association, and we represent the trade of musical products. That means any company who makes, manufactures, sells, distributes musical products, we represent them as an industry. And so we do, like I say, like typical industry stuff. We provide research and data and analytics to our members. We advocate on policy. We lobby on policy on behalf of our members on trade issues that affect our industry. We're heavily involved in tariffs right now, educating our members, things like that. We advocate for music education, the right for every student to have access to music. That's been a big piece of our history. We put on, like, we have lots of education, NAMM University online pieces that we do. We do the oral history program, tell the story of our industry. So a lot of our year, like, we are a trade association. We have a very big team that's working every day on all of these fun things that we do for NAMM members. The NAMM show is the most important, largest event that we put on for our members that gathers the industry annually. And of course, is the largest show in the world for the music products industry. And then we also operate the NAMM Foundation, which is a 501c3 charitable foundation. And really everything we do funnels to the NAMM Foundation with additional donations from our members, and we reinvest in growing our industry. So it's sort of a cycle of, if you start, the foundation creates more music makers worldwide. NAMM provides member services year-round to strengthen our industry, and we gather the industry globally once a year at the NAMM show to kick off the year with strong relationships and product launches and networking, which then helps strengthen our year, which then helps us reinvest through the foundation, and so on the cycle goes.
Well, very cool. You touched on the technology, and I love to always look back, right? And there is a lot to look back. I'm not gonna ask you to tell me how was the first NAMM in 1901. Probably you don't remember that. You were there, but you don't remember. But what I am always fascinated is, even if you look back at when you first went there and you were just a participant to the show, how things have been changing in the past few years with this technology that, let's face it, it's getting faster and faster. It's rolling out faster and faster.
This is my favorite thing to talk about. You can,
I knew
and
it.
we're
That's
actually
why I
coming up.
asked you that.
We're coming up on 125 years, and right now we're looking at next year of, like, when you have these historical milestones, you really start tracing your history. It's sort of an opportunity to celebrate. Like, you have a big birthday and you start thinking about all the years in the past. So we're in that world right now. You could tell the story of the history of NAMM by marking the technological innovations, and every dot on that timeline, every dot, before the dot comes, this thing's going to kill us. At the dot comes sheer panic and a cognitive the angel devil of, like, embrace and move forward. No, we got to protect the way things were. And then 5 years after the dot comes new opportunities, innovations, more successful industry that we never knew existed at the point the dot was there. And you could paint all those dots and you can name them in products. In fact, in 1902, NAMM was a piano show. And then they had these pieces of paper with holes in it that turned gears, that played the
Mm-hmm.
piano for you. And then, well, we're never going to sell sheet music. We're never going to have musicians. The world's over. 1917, I have one right here in my office because my grandmother actually had it and I didn't realize it. And I found it a couple years ago. I have a Victrola talking machine
Mm.
from actually 1923, this model, but it was the that all of a sudden you could crank and play records that no one's ever going to sell instruments anymore, ever. And you go on and on and on, and you get all the television, all the radio, all the television, even to the internet. In fact, there's a funny one. The first board meetings, I went back and read all this history of NAMM. I actually read the board meeting minutes and the documentation. It's fascinating. When the internet came out, the concern at the time at the board meeting, the argument, and it's so funny back in the time, you have someone on a typewriter, it's like the gentleman from so and so music declared like exclamatorily that he blah blah blah. The gentleman from over here, like these very formal minutes at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The conversation was, oh no, this internet, if everyone has a web page that has your 800 number, then customers are going to be able to find the 800 number of the store in another state, and you're going to be able to start selling there. Because you go back before that, it was, well, the phone book was only a state phone book. We'd have a national, and it was like it was the threat of the internet was someone was going to be more easily be able to find your 800 number and create more competition. That's what the concern was.
Wow.
Incredible.
What is our 800 number of AI today? Because that's what I look for. Like, what the big thing AI? Because right now we're talking about the 800 number. 5 years from now, we're going to be having a different conversation. So I love the innovation, and I think our job as an industry is to help our members embrace
Mm-hmm.
and help our members, move forward and ensure that we as an industry grow with the times and the technology. I think that's a core thing that we do as NAMM.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we're talking a bit about this because one of the key takeaways from me, yes, there was a lot of innovation and a lot of new product announcements, a lot of technology. It seemed a lot of technologies embedded in other technologies, a lot of collaboration technologies coming from NAMM 2025. But a big takeaway for me was there was a lot of that driving nostalgic things. What I'm trying to say is I saw amps being remanufactured to replicate sounds from the 60s and 70s. And it just seemed to be a general theme that we're leveraging the technology, but also trying to hold on to things that are nostalgic to us in terms of sounds and feelings that we've had over the years. So I don't know, any thoughts on that?
What you're hitting on something really, really valuable is that we are the music products industry, but as you see, there's a lot of music at the NAMM show, and there's a lot of artists at the NAMM show. Maybe like 11,000 or so to be exact. But there's a lot of it's part, and the history of musical products is driven right along with the history of musical genres and musical styles and musical sounds. And as we get new innovation in product, well, that either drives or is driven by or some combination of new musical styles. I mean, you look at listen. If I said 80s music, what would you think of when you hear? I said 90s music. What would you think of when you hear? You can name products, but you could hear sounds. And so we're always on that cusp. And that's why I think it's so important that we have the artists there in the booth demoing the product. We have the artists at the NAMM show connecting to it, because the innovation of products will inspire an artist to do something cool with it, or do something it wasn't supposed to do, like auto-tune or the drum machine. I mean, auto-tune wasn't cool until Cher cranked it up and said, "Do you believe?" And then all of a sudden, auto-tune became cool. And then T-Pain came out, and the stories there. So I think there's a really cool connection there. And I'm not surprised that we have a mix of new technologies that are waiting to inspire musical genres, but also using technology to recreate the iconic sounds of music that is driven. I'm not surprised at all that we have that mix right now.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love how you talked about the milestone that are what connect the history of the event, and as you're saying that, and as you're asking like what's the sound of the 80s, what's the sound of the 90s, you go with grunge, you go with, I don't know, Duran Duran and all of that, and and then you look back and it comes back and it's cool again, right? So that's the thing that I love. And even in the look of the instrument, I mean, you look at guitars now, they don't go too modern. They actually go to the vintage look again, even if they do have the new technology. And actually something that Sean was telling me from the show, that he was talking about the collaboration and mixing the technology and having a guitar that maybe doesn't need the amp and on the pedals anymore, but it has already all the sounds in the hard drive, and you just maybe plug it in the internet where you can get the 1-800 number and and upload a new 100 pedals in there. So is it going to kill the pedal industry, or is it just going to be doing things different? I mean, how do you balance that kind of innovation?
This is so much fun. We need 30 days, not 30 minutes. I
Well,
love
we
this
can do it
conversation.
once a week if you want. I don't mind.
Look,
You're very welcome.
I have no problem talking about this stuff. This is the funnest part. This is the funnest part of like this role. But like, and you back to like, what does NAMM do? The trade show is there, but we think carefully about what did we see at the trade show. We have all these analytics right now about this. I think to your question of is it going to kill certain things? Historically, evolution happens. I mean, look, horse trainers were not happy when the Model T came out. Like things changed. And I think there's this always, that evolution. So yes, there was a time in our industries that you could walk into a shopping mall. If any one of the listeners knows what that is, you'd walk into a shopping mall and there'd be an organ. You'd buy a home organ at a store in a shopping mall. And that was a large percentage of our industry. That's gone. All of that's gone. So evolution happens. And of course, we never want to see people go out of business and change, but we see stories of companies that have innovated and innovated and innovated. The companies that have been here 50, 60, 100, 200 years in our industry have continued to innovate. And I think a lot of what we focus on at the NAMM show and why you see these collaborations is really good, smart companies realizing that this piece of technology has a new purpose in the world today, but I need this other piece of technology, or this, what we saw a lot of the NAMM show is hardware software collaborations, where that was like, okay, you have something I need, but I'm not in the hardware business, you're in the software business, but together our powers combined. I think evolution and innovation is the history of our industry. And if you haven't figured out yet, I'm very much a lean forward person. Like I think NAMM's job is to help our industry and our musicians push into evolution and faster. And it's easy to get caught up into protecting the way things were. And according to the dots on the timeline, according to every dot, the evolution happens. The longer you fight it, the more it hurts.
You know what? Then I'm going to leave the word to Sean because I know it has a lot of questions. But one of the song that I quote the most is, the radio killed. I mean, the TV killed the radio star, which it didn't, right? I mean, and then in the internet, you have everything. You have podcasting that is nothing more than radio, but just on demand. But it's still the same concept. And I think that the lesson here is you innovate, you adopt, but I don't think you erase the past. There's still going to be people that want to play the instrument raw. And there's still going to be people that wants to read the books. I mean, in the past 2 years, bookstores and book sales, they came back up. The vinyl came back up. So, I mean, there is a shift, but there is not like the disintegration of the past. I mean, at least I like to think it that way.
We're creative. Musicians are inherently creative people, and we're an industry full of musicians. So we're passionate, very passionate. And I think inherently creative people, like there's a rush of I want to try something new and exciting because that's just how we're wired as an industry because of who we are and what we do. But there's also a piece of that rush is exciting, but then there's also a realization of there's a reason we've always done it this way. And you sort of like come out and come back, and that's fine. I think that's what we hear. Like, oh, I want to try that. I know why the 6 strings have always been tuned that way because this makes sense. Okay, got it. Et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's the fun part, and I think that's what we really want to inspire. That's what makes, I think, NAMM in our industry so different than other industries.
Yeah, and that inspire word I'm going to latch on to, because I definitely felt that there, and it was either me walking away with this thought or you stating it when you were having your discussion with John Batiste, um, where the NAMM show and NAMM in general is really about bringing more people in to the world of music, making it possible for them to perform, make it easier for them to create music and perform music, make it easier to consume music. I think that, to me, that was kind of the bit. I'm not smart enough to have that. So perhaps you said it, but I think that the whole point is to inspire through music, inspire to create music, and the cycle of creation and consumption, making it easier, bringing more people in, educate to make it possible. And so that's what I walked away with. And some of the technology that I saw there really does that. I saw an harmonica player that used pedals for looping and sound manipulation, and integrating beatboxing into this, and creating a sound that I'd not heard before, and an experience that I had not felt before sitting there in front of him. And that was because of the technology. He was inspired. He was able to create something unique, and I was able to feel something unique. To me, that's what it's all about, that inspiration. And that's old technology, new ways of thinking, all coming together.
We have to. I'm glad you got that from the show, and I think that's absolutely your great interpretation, because I don't think I said it that eloquently. So I give you credit there. I see, at its core, a trade show. In fact, I'll talk about NAMM's evolution too, because I mean, we have to evolve as a trade show. We don't look like we did 20 years ago, or quite frankly, even 6 years ago. Um, but you see that kind of inspiration. I mean, at its core, you have competitive manufacturers trying to one up each other, launching competitive products. And if you look at our industry, very sort of niche, small categories. So like, and we're quite crowded, and that's fine. I mean, pedals, you mentioned, it's a little bit of a crowded category, but that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Make more pedals, make more pedals. You have this, like, it's inherently competitive, and then you have all these retailers and buyers trying to figure out who's going to buy what, and then manufacturers meet with buyers trying to figure out how they're going to lie. It's so inherently competitive at its core, and music can be inherently competitive, but then these uniting factors of the show, and we do think about this, I think it happens organically, but we definitely pour gas on that fire. We love the fact that, yes, we're here to do these sort of competitive trade things, but at the end of the day, there's things, we're the music industry, not the insurance industry. We actually have a common goal of creating more music makers worldwide. We have a common goal of inspiring more children and adults to keep playing. We have some common goals, so we need to unite around the common goals while we also work out how we're gonna, so it's the idea of the pie. We can all help make the pie better while we actually fight for whose slice is bigger.
Right. Let's stay there with the foundation and the role of education. You mentioned that at the beginning. You would like to talk about it. I'd love to hear what you guys are doing nowadays, and maybe if there are difficulties in doing that. I mean, in my opinion, there is never enough music. I grew up in Italy. Music wasn't really a big thing, and you don't do that in elementary school, which is kind of crazy because it's Italy. I mean, we have a lot of music history there. But yeah, you just blowing a flute for, once 1 hour a week, and that's about it. But I know, like in the U.S., for example, it's always been more important in school, high school education, and all of that. Where are we with that now, and what you guys do about it?
Yeah, I'm glad you. Look, I grew up as a classical trained trumpet player. I've played a lot of Danzetti, Corelli, Tartini, Cani, all the Italian. We as a foundation, it is interesting, a daunting task. Like, we want to reinvest, and the idea is that we have, all the profits from the NAMM show. We have members that want to donate to give back to their industry. So we consider we are our industry's nonprofit. So then how do we reinvest? And we actually just hired an amazing new executive director of our foundation. And we've in this moment of like, what is next for the NAMM Foundation? Where we think is that the best role for us, because there's a lot of people doing nonprofit work and music. And so what we want to be careful of is we don't all go to the same place. So as we think about what the NAMM Foundation's purpose is we look at reinvesting in our industry based on a few factors. It's sort of a matrix. One is industry segments. Are we investing in programs that allow more students to play a band or string, wind or string or percussion instrument? But are we investing in areas that allow our more people to play string instruments, fretted, unfretted, bowed strings? Are we investing enough in recording, learning to like this bedroom producer and podcasters? And so we look at all the industry segments of our trades, and we look at how we invest and what nonprofits we invest in and what programs we work to help create or fund to make sure that, one, we are giving back to our industry in a holistic way so that it's important that every NAMM member sees themselves in the way we give back to the industry. And so we do a lot of K-12 music education, don't get me wrong, but we also, aren't sleeping on the community group or the after school audio program or everything else that's happening as well. So we look at industry segments and we look at the lifespan of learning. That we're a high first touch industry, just like a lot. You do sports, you do music, you do something early on in life, the chances of continuing are much higher. So we know first touch, early childhood, middle school, secondary, in school is key. But at the same time, adults get a little more discretionary income and start longing for a hobby. So also looking at college, adults, seniors, for the silver population, there's a lot of opportunity there. So we look at the lifespan of learning to make sure that our giving is appropriate. So it's kind of like creating this portfolio of we give to our whole industry across the lifespan of learning. And the number one thing that we always think of is our giving has to create a music maker or retain a music maker. So we're careful as much as, like, I'd love to buy beautiful new uniforms for every school marching band. I'd love to send kids on more festival trips. I'd love to bring in more guest artists. That's all great work, but we feel that work's not our lane. So we really want to say to our industry, because everything we do has to support all the companies that support us. We're thinking carefully about the funds you give us. We're giving back to your industry. You can see yourself in the work. You can see every age of your customer in the work, and we're creating and retaining our customers.
Well, I'm super grateful to. I'm a fellow trumpeter. Actually, I'm a little shorter than you, so I actually played a shorter instrument, the cornet.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yes, there you go. But no, I'm super grateful that I had that opportunity to have that training and to understand what music means, not just play, but understand what it means and how I can use it to help me feel better and to connect with other people and have conversations. And by going to the NAMM show, it connected the world of technology for me as well, which was the reason I launched my new podcast, Music Evolves, to talk about technology and music and some of the things that we can look at to help connect more people through music and create more music creators, as you put it. We have a few minutes here. I want to maybe ask you to pick your favorite child from from the NAMM show. There was so much going on. I mean, lots of performances, the whole launch day with new products and a lot of some celebrities part of there, a lot of technology coming out. Is there anything that stands out to you as a highlight from the show? Something you saw, heard, did?
I like that question. And I'm going to answer it very personally because, as NAMM CEO, I have all my stats and I can give you the big highlights, but you've seen that. The press release saw that. We've seen that. For me personally, and of course my schedule is running thing to thing to thing, you actually mentioned it already. It was the John Batista interview. And I'll, give you some like behind the scenes view of like A-list artists. It did start 15 minutes late, as you saw. I wasn't sure it was going to happen until about 10 minutes before it started. I met John for about 10 seconds backstage. We were getting mic'd up. He didn't know me. I had done my homework on him. As you saw, I could walk through the stages of his life, and I had prepped, but I didn't, he didn't know me from anyone. And, he had flown in super late from a gig, and it was a whole, and his schedule is incredible, by the way. I mean, that guy's getting on a jet and flying overnight and getting up the next day. He's unstoppable. He's a force of nature. But sitting there on stage And you probably saw it if you were there. I think you were there, Sean. We walked out like
Certainly was.
he wasn't sure. The first 5 minutes was I'm going as an interviewer expert like you are. You probably saw what I was doing. Give softballs. Talk about your childhood. Talk about your past. Talk about your music. Let's just get you comfortable. And I couldn't break it. Like it was like, but there was a moment when he asked, "Well, what is NAMM?" And like this part of like one of the biggest artists and the biggest careers from TV to film, production, performer, everything starts to embrace the concept of us as an industry. That was a really special moment. And then he starts smiling and we're laughing and we're telling jokes. And it really was special to me because one of the things that I've always loved about NAMM, but I've really, especially in the role now, like, you come in and you want to like get your hands on something even before you get in the office. I've always felt that our industry sort of thinks that we're our own. Like we get a little like comfortable, like we think we are special, but like we're not the only industry that struggles when inflation happens. We're not the only industry that's affected when people are trying to figure out how to put gas in their car. They don't buy the 12th guitar. They also don't buy the extra watch. They don't also take the vacation. They don't buy the extra sporting equipment. They don't do a lot of things. We have to stop thinking that like we're too, inside ourselves. And I've been really focused on how do I like lead our industry into something bigger. And that conversation with John Batiste was recognizing like that we as an industry have such impact on what he does every day. The fact that he didn't know it already, we'll get there because every artist in the world is going to know NAMM and the value. But just how quickly it unlocked and watching it happen in real time with someone whose smile is infectious, that was a very special moment for me, that interview, for that reason.
Yeah, and I remember that extremely well. That was a moment, and I could definitely see the shift. Definitely see the shift, and yeah, the whole thing is incredible. Even the early softball parts were great. So yeah,
So
that was a fantastic part of the event for sure.
Well, usually there is a joke between me and Sean where he has one more
I
question,
always
and
have
I
one more
and I
question.
and I
They're all
stop
here. I have
him,
a gazillion still.
and I
But
stop him. But this time, I'm gonna get the one more question, which is again, I want to go to the technology. So, what was something that you felt could be? I'm not gonna say a game changer, but like a technology that you is not gonna be the one that disappear, on your opinion, but one that's gonna stick in the industry.
you've been covering technology for a long time. I can tell because that's the right question to ask. Chasing fads. We love to chase fads, and by the time
I
we
call it blinking lights and funny noises,
yeah, dog
So
chasing cars, you never catch it anywhere in real life. So, um, I can tell you, I know exactly what it is for me. And I had the opportunity. We've been, working, just getting to know our Southern California partners down here at Qualcomm a little bit. And we have a friend over there that comes from a music background, one of the high ups in their product team. And we've been, meeting a little bit, talking about what Qualcomm's doing with processing and AI and what, partnerships they're having with other companies in the future. And Qualcomm was at the NAMM show and we started looking at all these AI products and the AI technology. What the future I see was a real unlocking moment is the one piece that we're about to unlock is processing power. The
Mm.
ability to do things in real time that we've become used to working within the constraints of let that render and go make a cup of coffee. I want to drag this plug in and hear that up. That's going to take 3 seconds. Let me stop the track, drag in a new plugin, wait for it to render, start the track again. That has affected our entire practice as creators and musicians. We're what Qualcomm's leading and Mac and Nvidia is following up, the three big chip makers, and what they're doing with AI AI is forcing us to process faster. We will very soon be able to do in real time what we've always conceived we have to wait for. So now you're splitting tracks, you're pulling out, so you're dropping out vocals in real time on a track. You're not trying to find the mix and tweak. You're throwing plugs in and in real time doing this on the fly. That I think is what's going to be the future, and that's going to change the way we create and change the way we process and change the way we approach music making holistically.
I love it. I was just visiting a friend of mine who he's in a band, plays keyboard, and we were going through some of his music, and we were talking about it. I was telling him about my NAMM experience and just that making it easier to create, and that the whole process, like you just described, of sitting in a DAW and trying to, and you have the artist ready to sing, and it crashed out, or the tuning or the plugin wasn't in there, or whatever it is, right? Some interruption or some delay, some disruption can destroy everything, and then even just the experience on the devices that we're performing on, connected to those things,
But it
making
also
it super
empower
easy.
people. It
Yeah.
kind of like democratize the music experience, right? So I got a question from my dad because I was in Italy at the time when NAMM was happening, and Sean was telling me about the example I brought about the effects on the guitar. And I told it to my dad. My grandfather was a maestro, a piano and singing maestro. And I was telling that to my dad, and my dad is very, kind of conservative for the good old stuff. And it's like, well, is that a good or a bad thing for music? And I said, well, it's probably both, right? It depends on how you use it. If you're going to tell AI, make me a song or write me a book for what it can be, it's going to probably be, pretty bad. It's going to be mediocre. But if you're going to use it to make it easier for somebody to get access to all the tools that you could have and make better music, well, then you're welcome, because you're lowering the entry level to creativity. So it depends what you do with it.
Always depends.
I agree wholeheartedly. I agree. It's going to speed up creativity. I mean,
Yeah.
they still say, well, how much percentage of our brains are we able to use? And like the creativity of humans is unsurpassed. I think we worry about robots and AI taking our job, but you know what? Like, I'll tell you one thing. I'd much rather throw a bunch of meeting notes in Chat GPT and get a summary in 10 seconds than read them
Mm-hmm.
and manually write them over like 4 hours it would take me. So you can have my
Right.
job. Take
Yep.
it,
I know.
please. Or I'd love to hear what this track sound. Gosh, I really wish I would have mixed this. I didn't like the way I mastered
Yeah.
that. I wish I could just
Yeah.
try it again, but it's going to take me 2 days
Yeah.
to remaster it. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, I like that sound. Okay, you know what? I will go back and actually do it that way. But I can quickly, I think you said
Right.
democratizes creativity.
Yeah.
That was a great way to put it, Marco.
Well, Sean, let's finish with that so I actually look good
I know. We'll finish so you
or
look good.
sound good for people listening.
Well, I'm already excited. January 20th through the 24th of 2026 can't come soon enough for me. That's the next NAMM show, 2026 version. John, I hope to see you there, and Megan and the rest of your team that supported me last time. And I hope to get even deeper into all that it has to offer. And hopefully it's not until then that you and I have another chat. Perhaps you'll join me on my show. We can talk about more technology stuff and the connection to music, and but in the meantime, hope this one gets everybody thinking. How can
This
we
is great.
create more music?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I love this conversation. Yeah, let's have it every day. I'm great. This is the
All
funnest part of
right.
my day.
All right.
Let's talk
We got
music and
coffee.
technology
We're
and
good.
creativity and
Yeah.
Be careful what you sign up for, because I'll be on you for that. You're very welcome. We will have you on again, and
For
we will
sure.
see everybody in January for NAMM 2026.
Yeah.
Uh,
And for more on location, just subscribe to this channel and stay tuned
yeah.
for more
So
on
so
location with me and Sean.
I'm going to go ahead and plug my show. If you like technology and music and that intersection and all that it brings, stay tuned to Music Evolves, a new show from me. So thrilled to have it. John, thanks a million. Thanks everybody for listening. Catch you on the next one.
This is a special announcement. We are heading to RSA conference in San Francisco for our 11th years of coverage, April 28, May 1st.
And as always, we'll bring you keynotes, conversations with organizers, speakers, industry leaders, plus the latest insights from the world of cybersecurity.
And we'll reconnect with old friends, meet new ones, and of course, we want you and your company to join us.
We have a few spots left for full sponsorship and our on-location briefings. You can book yours now at itspmagazine.com/RSAC.
We're going.
And you're coming with us.